Can a story still be good if it continuously and flagrantly disregards its own continuity? I think that over the years, Akira Toriyama's choices with Dragon Ball have consistently posited the question, how important is it for a story to be canon, for it to fall in line with the rest of its established universe? It's well known to anyone familiar with this franchise that there exists multiple branching continuities spread out over the manga, anime, movies, and games, and that even the stories considered part of the main canon boast their fair share of retcons and inconsistencies. With the introduction of Dragon Ball Daima, one of Toriyama's final projects prior to his death, the waters of the Dragon Ball canon have been further muddied, and it's led to controversial reception amongst fans. I think for most people, the way we feel about Daima is very contingent on how we feel about stories as a whole, on how much importance we place on consistency and continuity in fiction. But before we look at it from that general lens, let's talk a little bit about the inconsistencies that Daima presents. We know for a fact that Daima is considered canon, and that it's meant to take place after the Buu arc but before the introduction and arrival of Beerus. And in a general sense, that's a feasible place to put it. Goku and his friends are transformed into children as a result of a wish by the new Supreme Demon King of the Demon Realm, and they have to go to the Demon Realm to reverse the wish and rescue a kidnapped Dende. It's an isolated enough story in principle, taking place in an entirely different realm, but it also has massive implications on the world of Dragon Ball overall. It introduces the Demon Realm as the origin of many core races, the Namekians for instance, and the Glind, the new name for the race that would become the Kais in the outside world. There's a small inconsistency here, with Piccolo now knowing about Neva, the last Namekian in the Demon Realm, and about the origins of Namekians overall, but it's passable enough given that Namekians don't play a big role in Dragon Ball Super until the Moro arc. Moreover, we get the Dragon Ball multiverse's creation myth, how the universes were all made by a super Majin creature named Rimus. So far, this lore expands the setting but doesn't directly contradict with any of the lore we get in Super about the gods of destruction and about the Omni King Zeno. I do feel like it was a missed opportunity, however, to tie it all together by determining the general hierarchy of things and discussing the gods of destruction. It isn't an inconsistency though, just an inconvenience. Things only get really sticky when we start seeing new transformations. Vegeta's Super Saiyan 3, for one, is something we never see in the Super manga or anime, but it's a transformation that Vegeta never outright denies unlocking. It is functionally not optimal and thus unnecessary with the existence of Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue. It's easy to justify a reason for why he never uses it. We only get to the real complicated stuff with Super Saiyan 4. Goku unlocks this new form when Neva gives him a mid-battle boost/heal, and for the most part, it seems like a completely new transformation to him. When that episode aired, and in the time prior to the finale releasing, I and most other people had assumed that Neva had a big role in unlocking this form. Some people presumed that somehow it had to be isolated to the Demon Realm or somehow connected to it. These were all reasonable theories for how the franchise could justify this form's disappearance all throughout Super, and would have been an easy way to keep the continuity acceptable at the very least. Not completely smooth, but acceptable. However, with the finale coming around, Goku reveals to Vegeta that he'd been training a lot since Buu, and basically implies that he'd unlocked this form himself. With this simple throwaway line, Daima shatters continuity for Super. It's disappointing because it's needless. Goku just needed to feel more vague about the form, or mention it as something he doesn't feel he can access without Neva's help, or any other simple explanation to explain away its presence in Super. But he doesn't, thus breaking a lot in the story to come. The fact of the matter is that Super Saiyan 4 would not have done much in Dragon Ball Super anyway. Up against Beerus, Goku claims Super Saiyan 3 is his strongest form. It's not hard to reason that Super Saiyan 4 wouldn't have made much difference either. And then, when Super Saiyan God was introduced, it would have become completely obsolete. But despite that, it would have at least made for a better connected story if Super Saiyan 4 had been explained away as more of a one-off thing in Daima. It's small things like that, and for instance, like Shin and Kibiro unfusing but then being fused at the beginning of Super, that really frustrate me and others who care about continuity. It's especially frustrating given how easy it would have been to offer alternative solutions that wouldn't break the canon. So why didn't Toriyama do that? I don't think we can ever know for sure, but from what we know of Toriyama, he was a notoriously forgetful writer, and that had led to countless inconsistencies and retcons before. But I don't think it was forgetfulness that led to the issues in Daima. Now, bear in mind that this is purely conjecture and personal opinion. I by no means can make conclusive statements about Toriyama's state of mind or his plans. I can only try to interpret them in my own way in an attempt to give myself some semblance of explanation for why one of my favorite franchises of all time can get so narratively wonky. And so with that said, personally, I believe that by the end, Toriyama didn't worry too much about canon simply because he just wanted to have fun. I think it's hard for any artist to become well known for one thing and one thing only, and for that one thing to overshadow all other work they've ever done. There's no doubt that Toriyama loved Dragon Ball, but it's a world that he started creating more than 40 years ago. And after Dragon Ball Z, it was something he stepped away from until the eventual return in Super. And that's natural. That creative burnout is expected when an artist spends so much time doing the same thing. That's why I feel like by the time Daima was suggested, back when Toriyama was supposed to have minimal involvement in it, he perhaps saw it as an opportunity to do something new, something fresh. And that's why he ended up getting deeply into it and basically creating most of it. It was a chance to do something very different with Dragon Ball, and yet something so similar to what it was at the roots. And thus, Toriyama put a lot into it, and maybe for all of those reasons, decided to cast caution to the wind and just have fun with it, to not have to worry about canon but just enjoy the ride. Daima feels like the most Toriyama had been excited about Dragon Ball in years. During development, he put out a message where he introduced Daima and its concept and said, "I came up with the story and settings as well as a lot of the designs. I'm actually putting a lot more into this than usual." And his involvement is very clear in the final product. Daima feels like the most OG Toriyama Dragon Ball has been in decades. It has that whimsical, jovial charm and that wholesome sense of wonder and exploration. It has simple characters that end up becoming unusually lovable. It has funny moments of cute humor that you just can't help but smile at. And on top of all that, it has amazing battles that start off simple and grounded and yet dynamic, and then evolve into the full-on, balls-to-the-wall action we got used to in Z and beyond. Daima has the full Dragon Ball experience, and it's beautiful for it. It feels like raw, unfiltered Toriyama. That extends to the writing and the process behind it as well. And to be fair, to me, it always felt like Toriyama never really cared much about canon when he was writing Dragon Ball in the first place. He had a more lax outlook on all the alternate continuities, like the movie universe and GT. And he was prone to changing things majorly when he felt like it, such as how Dragon Ball Minus redefined the story of Bardock and the origins of Goku, which later even extended to the anime and to the Broly movie for Super. Now, you could also argue that all these alternate continuities and timelines are just a natural result of Dragon Ball's immense popularity. Dragon Ball grew into one of the world's most iconic pieces of media, a very well-known brand and an incredibly lucrative money-making machine. With the rights owned by Shueisha and the anime owned by Toei, it's also natural for the franchise to be milked for all it's worth and for alternate timelines and continuities to be made just to produce more content. But regardless of that, I do feel like Toriyama's loose attachment to canon has been a part of this franchise for as long as I remember. His writing style has always felt so spontaneous and dynamic, for both good and bad. And so naturally, with him being so involved with Daima, it feels like that style and approach to writing and to canonicity in his narrative extend to it. So, is it bad to dislike this style? To dislike Toriyama's treatment of canon and his disregard for continuity? Is it bad to hate this aspect of his storytelling when it's such a core part of what Dragon Ball is, and when it exists even when he is so closely attached to a project? No, I don't think so. I think it's fair for us as viewers to want something we love so much to make sense, to want the story of Dragon Ball to feel full and to be taken seriously. As a writer myself, I care greatly about continuity, and as a huge fan of this franchise, I care greatly about it, and I care about it being a legitimate piece of narrative fiction, and not just a visual spectacle of new fabulous transformations and colorful ki blasts. So does that mean I hate Daima and what it did to continuity? Not exactly. I was disappointed, especially with the way the ending unfolded without tying up all these loose ends and inconsistencies, and how it wrapped up the whole series in a way that left it so loosely connected to the main canon. But I didn't hate it. I was very disappointed, that's for sure, but more than that, I felt very conflicted. Because despite my grievances, I actually really enjoyed it. And for the most part, I actually loved Daima. As I said, it felt so very much like Toriyama. It was very nostalgic and it was very wholesome. And as a longtime fan of the franchise, it touched me. It made me feel things that the franchise hadn't made me feel in so long. For one, it made me relearn to love Goku, to understand this innocent dumbass of a character and to appreciate him. And with such a beautiful art style and animation that perfectly captured this sense of nostalgic wonder and exploration, it was hard for me not to fall in love. So yeah, Daima is a very conflicting experience. But I suppose the more I think about it, the more I feel like maybe part of accepting Daima as such a heavily Toriyama-led project means accepting the narrative flaws that come with it. Because at this point, those flaws are almost a part of Dragon Ball's identity. The constant retcons and inconsistencies are practically a staple at this point. And I'm not saying I enjoy them, but I guess for Daima, I can sort of accept them. If those inconsistencies and continuity errors were the trade-off for us getting a pure, wonderful Toriyama creation, then I think I'm fine with it. If this is what Toriyama needed to do in order to feel comfortable and creatively fulfilled creating Daima, and it seems like he was given how beautiful it turned out, then fuck it. I'm so happy with the Toriyama vibes that I can forgive the continuity errors. And well, the man did create one of the greatest franchises of all time. I think he's earned our goodwill. But anyways, thanks a ton for watching. Let me know how you felt about Daima and about the whole continuity mumbo jumbo. And Dragon Ball aside, do you think any story could be good if it continues to disregard its continuity? Let's talk about it. I'd really like to know what you guys think. For my regular viewers, I know I've been away for a while, but life has been hectic in Lebanon. Hopefully, I'm back now. Feels like I say this so damn often, but I'm hoping this time it actually sticks. Anyways, take care and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.